Hey everyone, welcome to The Explainer. I am so pumped you're tuning in today. Look, we're tackling what is arguably one of the most universal and, let's be real, totally stressful parenting hurdles ever. We're talking about how to help your kids start their homework without the whole evening devolving into some kind of high-stakes hostage negotiation. We're going to dig into some really fascinating insights from Dr. Omer Çelikkol. He's an associate professor of education to figure out a much calmer, structured way through this. We have all been there, so we're approaching this with zero judgment and just a ton of enthusiasm for finding what actually works. Let's get right into it.
It's time to start your homework. In a minute. Oh, man, we know this dance, right? It's so universally familiar. But it perfectly captures just how fast things can escalate. 5 minutes tick by, you repeat the instruction, maybe your voice gets a little sharper, their defenses instantly go up. And boom, before you know it, the argument isn't even about the math worksheet anymore. It completely morphs into a power struggle over control, over respect, and basically who's going to blink first.
So here's our game plan to fix this. We're going to cover the homework battleground, unpack exactly why starting is so tough, walk through a really practical 5-part starting plan, talk about protecting momentum and navigating refusal, and finally set up a 7-day start experiment.
All right, let's kick things off with part 1, the homework battleground.
We've got to start by acknowledging the sheer tension of this before state. Dr. Çelikkol points out something really crucial here. A lot of homework conflicts actually start before your kid has answered a single question. I mean, the fight is on before the pencil even touches the paper. And we adults, we often totally misinterpret this. We see them dragging their feet, and we treat that delayed start as laziness or just flat-out defiance. But doing that dramatically cranks up the emotional temperature in the room. We get mad, they get defensive. But what if we reframe this? What if we look at that resistance as task overwhelm instead? That changes the whole game. It lets us step back and say, okay, how can we shrink the size of this beginning and make that very first step so much easier to take?
Which brings us right to part 2, why starting is hard. We need to peel back the layers on the hidden cognitive demands going on here. Have you ever asked yourself why starting is just fundamentally harder than continuing? Because a lot of kids actually do totally fine once they finally get into the groove. It's the specific transition into the homework that creates this intense friction. So what on earth is happening inside a kid's brain right at that moment?
Well, that moment of starting is loaded with hidden demands. Think about it. First, they have to physically stop an activity they'd way rather be doing. Then, the materials themselves might just look incredibly overwhelming. You know, a chaotic pile of tabs and books and rubrics. Or they might actually be carrying around anxiety from a failure that happened earlier that day at school. Or maybe they just legitimately don't know what task they're supposed to tackle first. When you see your kid doing things like repeatedly sharpening their pencil, suddenly needing to use the bathroom for the 4th time, or asking you totally random, unrelated questions, those are usually signs of avoidance triggered by these exact hidden demands. They aren't always just testing your limits.
And honestly, here's where we parents kind of stumble. We accidentally smash 2 massive, overwhelming demands together in a single breath. Demand 1, stop what you're doing right now. Demand 2, complete all of your homework. For a kid who is already teetering on the edge of overwhelm, hearing those mashed together sounds like one gigantic, impossible mountain to climb. We have got to learn to separate the transition itself from the actual academic work.
And that's exactly what part 3 is all about, the 5-part starting plan.
Okay, let's dive into this super actionable framework. This is designed to completely separate that sticky transition from the actual homework. Here is the breakdown. Step 1, advance notice. Give them a 10-minute warning, not a sudden drop everything demand. Step 2, use one calm cue. Maybe it's a timer going off, or just a short phrase, but the key is moving close to them, not shouting it from the kitchen. Step 3, offer a limited choice. Step 4, make the first step incredibly clear. And Step 5, acknowledge their feelings. Remember, the immediate goal right now isn't finishing the whole night's worth of work. It is literally just crossing the threshold into getting started.
Let's zoom in on Step 3 for a second, because it's brilliant. Asking, would you like to begin with math or reading, is such a fantastic tool. Why? Because it instantly diffuses the power struggle. You're offering a limited, adult-approved choice. It gives your child a little bit of agency over how they begin, but, and this is key, without ever making the homework itself optional.
Moving to Step 4, this all boils down to the absolute power of 1. The secret sauce here is making the very first step ridiculously small and crystal clear. Don't just say, start your homework. That's too big. Say, write your name and the date at the top of the page. Or read the very first instruction out loud.
This first step needs to be so small that they can do it even if their motivation is sitting at rock bottom. Just getting that one tiny, single thing done shifts their brain from avoidance mode into engagement mode.
Now, what if they still push back? Because, let's be real, they probably will. That is where step 5 swoops in. Try using this exact phrasing. I know you do not feel ready. We are still beginning now. Just listen to the balance happening there. You've got warmth and firmness existing perfectly side by side. You are totally validating that they aren't feeling it while remaining incredibly calm and holding the boundary that, yes, the work is starting right now.
All right, moving right into part 4, protecting momentum and navigating refusal. So, what happens the second they finally start? Well, as parents, we're usually so unbelievably relieved that they're finally moving their pencil that we instantly start hovering. We swoop in and start interrogating them. Wait, are you doing that right? Why did you write a 3 there? Stop! This completely shatters their momentum and yanks the control right back away from them. Instead, shift into short, independent work periods. Let them work. Just agree on when you're available to help. Try saying, hey, complete the first 3 questions, circle anything that's confusing, and then we'll review it together. To keep the train on the tracks, you've got to dodge a few common pitfalls. First, giving endless reminders without any follow-through. That just trains them to completely ignore your first 5 instructions. Second, asking fake questions, like, hey, are you ready to do homework? You're literally handing them an invitation to say no. Third, starting off with criticism just tells them you already expect them to fail. And finally, verbally dumping the entire workload on them all at once? Yeah, that just sends their overwhelm right through the roof.
Okay, but what if they just dig their heels in and the refusal continues? Fall back on a highly predictable, ultra-calm response. Homework begins now. You can start with reading or math. If they absolutely refuse to choose, you calmly choose for them. Keep it short. This is absolutely not the time to get angry and invent a new punishment on the fly or deliver some sweeping lecture about their future work ethic. Nope. Just calmly restate the boundary and the choice.
Which brings us to our final section, the 7-day START experiment.
This is where we take all this great theory and actually put it into practice. I really want to challenge you to try this structured 5-part sequence for 1 full week. Commit to it. Don't just toss the whole routine out the window because you hit a wall on a Tuesday night. Over the next 7 days, play detective. Keep an eye on a few key things. How many reminders did you actually have to give today versus Monday? How many minutes did the transition take? Which specific choices actually seem to lower your child's resistance? By observing these little patterns, you're going to slowly pave a much shorter, calmer path from I don't want to, straight to, okay, I've started.
Now, I do want to add a quick, important caveat here. If your child is regularly experiencing just intense distress, and they genuinely cannot begin, even when you're giving them this highly structured support, well, that persistent difficulty might be a signal for something deeper than just a lack of motivation. It could point to underlying anxiety, missing foundational skills, or even a learning disorder. If that's happening, you really need to bring the teachers into the loop and look into a broader educational or healthcare assessment. A great routine is a powerful tool, absolutely, but it doesn't magically fix deeper learning difficulties.
I want to leave you with this somewhat provocative thought to chew on. Children do not become independent because adults repeat louder instructions. They become independent by practicing a manageable sequence that they can eventually carry out with less and less of our help. So tonight, instead of demanding they conquer the entire mountain, how can you help them take just that very first, tiny, visible step? Thank you so much for exploring this with me on The Explainer. Catch you next time.